Hello everyone, welcome to week 3 deep dive where we're going to be working on our sounds. We're going to be creating different sound effects, different longer looping sounds for our entire game, and it's all going to be inside of a couple of sprites. Now, as you're following along the video, all you need to worry about is making sure that the code that I'm adding is for the particular code that you have. So what I mean by this is if some of you guys see that I'm adding sounds for stuff that you don't have for your game because you didn't do the deep dive lesson, then you don't have to worry about those. You can skip it and just worry about the ones that you do have so you can add those sounds. So to begin, we're going to go ahead and add the sound effects. So for sound effects, what those basically are, when an action happens, so for example, when I click on the start button, because I'm clicking on something, I'm doing an action. When I'm clicking on my space bar for my player to jump, that is an action. And I'm going to go ahead and add a quick little sound that I want to use for those. So to start off, I'm going to click on the start. I'm going to go ahead and look for this when this sprite clicked. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the Fuchsia sound tab. I'm going to go ahead and add a start sound right on top of it, because the moment it gets clicked, I want to make sure that that sound gets to be played. Next, I'm going to go into the sound tab. I'm going to click on choose a sound. I'm going to go ahead and go into effects. These have all of the short, quick little ones that I can go ahead and use. I want to go ahead and find the sound that I want to use, and I can hover over the play so I can get a little sneak peek of what it is. Once I'm happy with it, I can go ahead and click on it. And don't be afraid of playing around with all these different tools that Scratch has, so that even if you are not able to completely find a sound that you like, maybe you can go ahead and change it into a sound that you do like by playing around with some of these settings. So for example, I can add a fade in. Maybe I want to go ahead and make it slower. Maybe I want to go ahead and cut the end. So there's a lot of options that I can use in order to make it the sound that I want. Once I'm happy with this, I can go ahead and click on the code tab, go back to the sound, and then swap it for my new sound. Now there are other options as well, but I'm not going to go completely in depth in them in this video. But what you can go ahead and do is if you hover over choose a sprite, you can click on record. And once you click on this red button here, you can go ahead and make a sound effect. So for example, if maybe you want a sound effect of your player maybe jumping, maybe you want to slam against the table, maybe you want to snap, maybe you want to do something with your voice in order to create a sound. And then once you're done, that can be the sound that you're using. So you can make your own sound if you can't find one that you like from scratch. Another way that you can do it is if you follow a different tutorial that will be linked in this video below somewhere. What you can do is you can download a sound off of YouTube that you want to use. Again, make sure that they're short. You don't want anything too long because it makes your game a little bit slower. It makes Scratch has to basically load up everything. It just makes it really slow. So just make sure that the sounds are very short when you do look for them. But you can also, once you download them, you can go ahead and hover over choose a sound. You can click on upload sound, and then you can go ahead and use that sound instead. So you guys have a lot of great options that you guys can use in order to either make your own sound, find a sound on YouTube, or change a sound from scratch in order to find what works best for you in your game. So now that we're done with the start, we're going to go ahead and move on to the credit, because this is another button as well. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing, so we're going to look for when this sprite is clicked. We're going to add a start sound, and then we're going to go ahead and click on our sound tab. Look for another short sound. Again, the reason why we're looking for a short sound for these is because once I click on it, something happens right after, and I don't want a long sound to continue playing after I've already done clicking it. So that's why I want to make sure to make them nice and short. So again, look for the sound, swap it. I'll do the same thing for the how to play as well. So I'm clicking. I'm looking for this when this sprite is clicked. I'm adding a start sound. And then I'm repeating the same process again. Now, another thing, in case you guys forgot, is even though these are clear buttons, we also have the credit list and the info spread as well, also being buttons because they're supposed to return us back to the menu. So, because of this, we'll also have a sound for those as well. So you'll look for it here and add another start sound, and then add the new sound that you want to go ahead and use for it. And you can even keep it the same with the one that you've already done. So for example, for my credit, if I used byte, and I want to make sure I use the same sound for this one as well if I want to. So that's another option that I can use. And I can search for it up here since I've already used it before. And then I can add it in. Next, for the info, I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, so now that I finished adding all of the sounds that I need for my different buttons, the next sound that I'm going to add is going to be for my player. So this is going to be a jump sound. So every time we click on the spacebar, we're going to go ahead and do a sound effect. Now, instead of using start sound, you want to use play sound until done, because you want to make sure that the entire sound is done playing before you go ahead and use this again. So I'm going to add that right above the set velocity, and then this will allow me to then have the sound played. So I'm going to click on the sound tab. I'm going to choose a sound. I'm going to see if they maybe have a jump effect, which they do. And then I'm going to go ahead and swap it in. Again, this one has to be short too, especially because you're going to be doing it constantly, and you don't want the sounds to start cutting each other off or overlapping one on top of the other. So make sure that you're using this play sound until done. So now that we have all of the sound effects that we want to do done, we have two more sounds that we can add. The first one is going to be an overall sound. This is the sound that's going to play throughout our game, and we're going to go ahead and add this on our stage. So for our stage, we're going to go ahead and add from the yellow events tab, a when I receive game start. I'm going to go ahead, and now again, this part is optional. You guys have a couple of options that you can do. The first option is you can go inside the sound tab and you can use a play sound until done. You can go into the sound tab, choose a sound, and this time we're going to go into loops because we want a little bit of a longer sound. And again, I'm just clicking random sounds, but you guys can go ahead and go through the different libraries and really hear everything before you choose the sound that you actually want to use. So you don't have to use the same sounds that I'm doing for this video. I'm going to go ahead and swap it. Now that I have this, I have the option of either adding another one, so I can duplicate it, add another sound, and that way once the first sound is done, then it'll play the next one. This will only happen once, and we all know that this game is technically endless until the player actually loses. So what we can go ahead and do is, if we want it to loop, we just want to go ahead and go into controls, and add a forever. This way it loops it. So you can either loop one sound or you can loop two sounds. So it'll play the entire sound for the first one, then it'll loop and play the next sound entirely until it's done, and then it'll restart from the beginning again. The most you guys could have is 2 to 3. So I wouldn't do anything more than that because then it'll make the code a little bit too long having all those sounds that has to be played. But other than that, you should be good. Now, once you're done with that, the last sound that you guys can also add is going to be for the game over. So in order to do this, we're going to go ahead and we're going to actually make this into a separate code. So on the yellow events tab, we're going to use when I receive player lose or game over, depending on which one you guys have. We're going to go ahead and go into the sound tab. We're going to clear sound effects. Oh no, sorry. We're going to stop all sounds. Then we're going to go ahead and wait 0.5 0.1 seconds. And then we're going to go ahead and play sound until done. This is just to make sure that it stops the background sound from playing. It quickly waits before it then plays the losing sound. And then the same thing, you guys can go into the sound tab, find a nice long sound that you can use, and then you can go ahead and play it here. And once you're done with that, those are going to be all the sounds that you guys need. So again, you guys have 3 different options on what you guys can do in order to add your different sounds. You guys also have different places where you can add the sounds as well. And you guys can always play around with it too. So after you're done adding all the sounds, the best thing to always do is to click on your green flag, play your game, and really hear and see how all the sound works together. If you feel that some of the sounds are too loud, you can go ahead, you can go to that sound, you can add a set volume above it, and you can change the volume. So if you find that one of the sounds are way too loud, you can go ahead and lower it. Or if you find that maybe the sound that you're using is way too low, you can raise up the volume. So you can do that with all of your sounds as well. So play around with it, really listen to it, play your game, test everything out, make sure everything is good. And then once you guys are done, you are all done for week 3. Later on, you will be seeing lessons for week 4.